Hello everybody. So, remember how last week I covered Kaze, Saizo, and Kagero and weapon ideas I had for them? Well, I figured that, well, I'm gonna do another one. This time I'm going to cover the Asgard trio, Anna, Sharena, and Alfonse. Wow, I forget names really quickly apparently. So, a lot of those tend to seem a bit overpowered, but the problem is it's fixed on one character with no IVs and no emergence. This is why I'm going to be a bit more deliberate with it, and also, they're not part of actual games, so I have nothing to base myself off outside of the weapons themselves. So, as one should expect, it's going to be basically the weapon themselves with maybe a variation of the base effect. Actually, no, it's a variation of the base effect on all of them, and a actual refine added to it. So, let's move on to Anna first. I'm going to do Anna, then Alfonse, then Sharena, for those curious. So, Anna. Anna is really as decent HP, even now, honestly. Her death is very garbage, but frankly, most of the very scary blue units are dragons, and her res is what matters for those. Thankfully, her res doesn't suck ass. So, and her speed doesn't either. So, actually hitting a threshold in HP is okay-ishly difficult, for lack of a better term. It's difficult a bit, but in a lot of cases, especially with dragons, dragons are fucking everywhere. She can actually hit the threshold of HP well. Except in this case, I'm going to actually up it up still, because frankly, even then, sometimes you might struggle to hit it, especially if you just get hit by a Naui. Naui, even in tier 20, tends to have like 50, 53 attack. So process of elimination, 53 becomes 43, that's 15 damage, 50 becomes 40, that's 12 damage. It's about enough to hit 75%, but not quite enough for 50 or 40% whatsoever. So, here's the weapon we find that I gave her. Like I said, variants of the base one. I'm giving her Escape Route 5.5, purely because I feel like that would make the nature of the perk much easier to proc, and it also in conjunction works extremely well with, well, you guessed it, Wrath, which is her weapon slot. The reason why I went for Wrath is her attack is extremely lackluster, even with Nauton. Even at launch, for fuck's sake, it was considered kind of abysmal, to say the least. 45 attack is extremely underwhelming. Now, you can actually raise that up with an A slot, but you will most likely be working on buffing your res, because she works really good as a niche dragon counter, in my opinion. And now that she would have Wrath in her weapon, if she would have Wrath in her weapon plus Wrath in her B slot, Moonbow becomes an instant proc at the start of every turn. You could also run AoE skills, for that matter, but even then, it's kind of up in the air. I would say Moonbow would yield you more consistent results, because AoEs, you'll get attack, you'll attack, you'll maybe kill or just harm them. Next turn you get 2 charge AoE procs, that's cool. But afterward, for other fights, you need to basically make the enemy waste 2 turns if you want to proc it, while Moonbow is an instant proc. So yeah, Moonbow would be better with Wrath if that was the case. It would definitely give her an edge, because that way double Wrath means our 45 attack gets a ton, and I mean a ton of traction, while still having a lot of speed as well. That's good. That's actually really good. You run Fury, you run Nauton, you have like, what, 48 attack and 41 speed? That's without buffs, by the way. And you get 20 damage from the proc itself. Moonbow gives an extra 9 to 12 damage as well. It's really solid on her. I would say the issue is hitting Wrath at times, because not every team will be nice enough to have a unit for you to get to Wrath range. So just be careful still, if that would ever fucking happen. Most likely won't. I don't expect IS to actually pay attention to those videos whatsoever, but I mean, if they do, cool. Make Anna good, this is a good idea. But yeah, let's move on to Alfonse. Alfonse is actually just like Anna in a way. Slow starts, but gets really strong afterward. Which, by the way, I'm going to mention something about Alfonse as well here. Reciprocal Aid. I don't suggest that skill very often, because I feel it's very stupid, because it requires you to take damage with a unit, heal it, and then you can do something on the turn afterward. Unless you have a Dancer, obviously. Which sucks. It does. But if you use Alfonse and or Anna with a tank, hitting reciprocal aid becomes much, and I mean much easier. Say Lucas, right? Lucas gets hurt. You heal him up with reciprocal aid on Alfonse, which by the way would have 46 HP because it's a refine. Every melee refine gives 3 HP. You would basically be almost healing him back to full, right? And then you'll actually be in the range for Volksvanger's effect. Now, Volksvanger's base effect is garbage. It is complete ass. I would go as far as to say as this is the worst legendary weapon in the game, because Defiance skills are fucking garbage. Attack tactic? What's this? I can make my beat stick have 5 more might? No, you already get a 6 buff, so the 5 buff is irrelevant. Great. Great. And if you have own attack, you basically gain a whole 1 attack. Wow. Absolutely broken. The most broken of weapons. And before someone brings to me like, well, actually, turfing is only buffing for 4, and it's not great. It's a spur. You can stack it with buffs. This, you can't. So, yeah, anyway, moving on. So by nature, Defiance skill sucks, right? What replaced Defiance skill entirely? Brazens. Guess what I did with this? Brazens. What a surprise, right? His 2 highest stats outside of HP are attack and def, so I think you can put 2 and 2 together. It's Brazen Attack Def. I took also the liberty of giving Brash Assault 5.5 as the refine. By the way, as usual, green text, refine, white text, base effect. So even if you go like speed plus 3 or def plus 4 for whatever reason, you would still get the Brazen effect. So def might be actually useful to increase his survivability, so he can actually live long enough to use the Brazens. Especially now that Brazen Attack Def is so easy to obtain, with Eris being in the pool and at 4 Starve, no less. You can actually combo 2 Brazens. The problem though is, like I said, getting the machine going is a problem. Now, if you have, say, an Effie to fight and you use Lucas, Lucas is going to take damage, obviously, right? This is where it comes in. Reciprocal aid would get you in Brazen range, and Brazen range actually makes him broken. This guy jumps from 51 to 65 attack and 46 death. He becomes a bulky motherfucker. But the best part about this is the refine is Brash Assault 5.5. Lyn already has this effect, I'm aware, but with a different base effect. So, Desperation can be used in the B slot pretty easily to make so you run the Brash Desperation set. You still have your Seal slot open, that's the best part about it. So you could, like, theoretically run 2 Brazen Attack Death, Tactic on top of it, and then Attack plus 3 Seal, right? 35, 41, 55. Freaking hell. 58, and then the weapon, that's 74 attack. Yeah, you heard that right. 74 attack all thoughts. At this point, when you're in Brash Desperation, Ira dies immediately, Zelgius dies immediately, most red unit dies immediately, green units, it's not a fucking issue. Some mage might be a problem. Merrick and Bowie, actually. Those are the 2 mages that might be able to just tank a blow, and because they won't run close counter unless they do, you will only hit once, and even then, this guy's a fucking destroyer. This guy has so much attack, it's basically Sita with the Wing Spear with the effective damage on, but on every fucking weapon. Well, not every fucking weapon, every fucking attack, rather. Regardless of what the enemy is. The problem is getting to it, obviously. So like I said, Reciprocal Aid, actually really good on him. And yeah, Brash Assault Desperation is a really good set on him. You could also run Wrath if you want. I wouldn't suggest it. But, I mean, it could definitely work as a defensive set. Wrath with, I don't know, probably Bonfire or Draconic Aura. Bonfire would be a bit better, actually. Also, Death Tactic, double Brazen hit, and he hits 52 death. Like, are you serious? Ira does not even kill at this point. So, yeah. He becomes extremely exceptional, and honestly, this would be much better as a weapon for him, let's be honest. So, Sharena. Sharena is the one I was the most imaginative on about, because I'll be honest, our weapon doesn't really give you a lot to work with. It's not a bad weapon. It was really good at launch because she had 45 def, and she was a slightly good debuffer as well. Like, she was a good debuffer and she would buff yourself, essentially making so you would injure hits you would not normally be tanking. Now, what do you think I did with this? A few people in the Discord knows what I did for the base effect. No one actually knows what I did with the special effect. So, this is what I did. At the start of turn, inflict attack, speed, def, and res -3 on foes within 2 space. This doesn't require any fight whatsoever. So, yeah. It's basically Spectrum Treffen. It's a downgrade in terms of attack itself, but for everything else, it's amazing. It's 12 points of debuffing. And the refine itself is the main reason why I did this. Add 50% of total penalties on foes to units' attack, speed, def, and res. So, say she threatens someone, right? It would basically be -3 on everything, and for her, she would get 6 attack, speed, def, and res. Now, I can already tell what a few people will say, and while I agree with this, it's not a problem. But Jay, mages won't get just in range, so you can threaten them. And to those people, I'm like, yeah. Your point. It's not the goal. Because her res is low. She still only has 22 res. 28 with this effect. Which can be useful, but it's nothing absolutely required. Essentially, this makes her a very good duelist against melee units. She ends up with 46 health. Let that sink in. 46 health. Because of the refine itself, you get 3 HP on melee weapon. I'm repeating myself, blah blah blah. 38 attack, which means 54 with Fancilier. 38 speed, which actually fixes her middling speed. So if you give her Fury, that's 57 attack and 41 speed. Against melee units. And your def is not even that bad. With Fury, you're at the point where you have 38 defense. Obviously, it's not Lucas level, because you can't actually refine it for def and get the total penalty on foes to units attack, speed, def, and res effect at the same time. But it's still pretty nice. With Swordbreaker, Ira would attack you, you would tank, and you would destroy her. You would actually have the attack to kill her as well. Which, by the way, right now, she can't do that. Even with Swordbreaker, even if it's the Slaying Edge kit. Which means, by the way, if you let the unit attack, unless she has Quick and Pulse, basically just lets her attack, not spec, and if you have Swordbreaker, you'll just hit twice. Now, if you don't have Swordbreaker, you're fucked, but that's another story. So, she would be bulky, fast, and hit hard against any melee unit. Mages are still a problem, obviously. So, it's still balanced in a way where she's still struggling to some extent, but much less than she is currently. So, yeah. It's essentially just so she gets that extra push in everything she requires. I suppose in a way it's essentially Siglined, but reversed. And only like on a versus situation based on the one and the other. And like instead of, look, I take everyone's debuff and had it as my own buffs. That would be extremely weird and would not work very well. So, this is about as good as I could think of. About all three of them. Do you agree with my choices? Do you have anything to say about it? I'm curious to actually hear about it, so yeah. I could have also made this like a threatened buff kind of deal, just like Soph, but less stats. And the buff would have been the refine effect, but I feel like Soph is just so much better at that. There's just no reason for me to do so. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it here. As usual, my Discord is going to be in the description if you want to talk to me. Or the people there, obviously. My Twitch is also going to be in the description below. For those people who are curious when I do stream, I stream every Wednesday. I tend to start streaming at 10 or 11 AM. It depends on how fucking sleep treats me, and it hasn't been treating me very kindly, to be honest. But, aside from that, I don't have any more thing to say, so I'm going to call it a video here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.